the curtain is being pulled back on the anointed one. Judge Emmett Sullivan unsealed an additional 11 pages of documents showing more background information about how the FBI was targeting former National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn. Judge Sullivan's release of the unsealed documents is even more revealing than the bombshell revelation of the declassified, handwritten FBI notes released the night before. Conservative Treehouse reports. They may not realize it yet, but the new release of the 11 pages of documents implicates Obama. An electronic communication note revealed that the FBI was closing their investigation into General Michael Flynn. FBI agent Peter Strzok went bananas and immediately began texting FBI officials to keep the investigation open. Fired FBI Director James Comey being actively engaged is important. Previously Comey said he was unaware of what his agents were doing. The very next day, January 5, James Comey goes to the White House for a meeting with President Obama and Vice President Biden. January 5 is the White House meeting where National Security Advisor Susan Rice, FBI Director James Comey, Crossfire Hurricane, and Deputy AG Sally Yates, Flynn FARA, are talking to President Obama about the status of the Flynn FBI investigation, and President Obama says by the book. FBI wants to close investigation, but Peter Strzok says, no wait, I have a plan. James Comey involved, Comey goes to the White House. President Obama says, okay, but make sure. President Obama began the conversation by stressing his continued commitment to ensuring that every aspect of this issue is handled by the intelligence and law enforcement communities by the book. The president stressed that he is not asking about initiating or instructing anything from a law enforcement perspective. He reiterated that our law enforcement team needs to proceed as it normally would by the book. From a national security perspective, however, President Obama said he wants to be sure that, as we engage with the incoming team, we are mindful to ascertain if there is any reason that we cannot share information fully as it relates to Russia. The president asked Comey to inform him if anything changes in the next few weeks that should affect how we share classified information with the incoming team. Comey said he would. James Comey briefs President-elect Trump in Trump Tower on the Steele dossier. Christopher Steele deletes all files relating to his Trump dossier. It doesn't take an investigative genius to see what took place here. The long-forgotten letter from Susan Rice's lawyer, Catherine Ruemmler, who was also the former White House counsel to President Obama. Notice that in Ruemmler's letter she specifically says, the January 5 meeting was about Flynn. The memorandum to file drafted by Ambassador Rice memorialized an important national security discussion between President Obama and the FBI Director and the Deputy Attorney General. President Obama and his national security team were justifiably concerned about potential risks to the nation's security from sharing highly classified information about Russia with certain members of the Trump transition team, particularly Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. While serving as National Security Advisor, Ambassador Rice was not briefed on the existence of any FBI investigation into allegations of collusion between Mr. Trump's associates and Russia, and she later learned of the fact of this investigation from Director Comey's subsequent public testimony. How could Ms. Susan Rice be aware of a national security compromise, particularly surrounding Lieutenant General Michael Flynn after a briefing by the FBI, if she was not briefed on the existence of an FBI investigation? With all of this information, these stories are falling apart. The Federalist's Molly Hemingway wrote about how the New York Times admits that the Obama regime deployed several spies against the Trump campaign in 2016. Following months of angry claims by journalists and Democratic operatives that the Obama administration never spied on Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, the New York Times admitted that multiple overseas intelligence assets were deployed against associates of the Republican nominee. It is not the first time the Times has revealed widespread spying operations against the campaign. In addition to noting that longtime informant Stefan Halper was tasked with collecting intelligence on the Trump campaign, the Times story details how a woman was sent overseas under a fake name and occupation to oversee the spy operation. The woman's real name is not mentioned in the article, though the Times says she went by Azra Turk, and has a relationship with an unidentified federal intelligence agency. Halper was handpicked by a seasoned FBI counterintelligence agent out of the New York office. While the Times does not identify the agent by name, the paper says, the FBI agent spoke at a conference organized by Halper about a 2010 case, involving Russians posing as Americans. The public schedule for a 2011 conference hosted by Halper, about the exact same case shows that 3 FBI counterintelligence agents were invited to speak on the topic. The 3 agents publicly identified as speaking at that conference on the topic are, George J. Innes, Jr., Alan E. Kohler Jr., and Stephen M. Sama. Innes currently serves as the special agent in charge in the FBI's New York office, according to his LinkedIn profile, and worked closely with Preet Bharara, former the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, a virulent anti-Trump activist whom the president fired in 2017. The NYT also admits in its article that, the aggressive and unprecedented action of deploying spies, and luring American targets overseas to collect intelligence on a rival political campaign, yielded no fruitful information. It is not clear whether information collected by Halper and Turk was used to justify formal spy warrants against any of the United States citizens. This explains the anti-Barr freakout. So long as anti-Trump operatives controlled the FBI and DOJ, this type of leaking and concealing of information worked well. Most major media outlets have chosen to ignore the spying scandal, in favor of non-stop anti-Trump advocacy. That left actual fact-finding and truth-seeking to a small group of media outlets, and a handful of elected lawmakers tasked with oversight of the nation's spy agencies. When William Barr took over as Attorney General, it was the first time in years the agency had any real political accountability. Trump's first Attorney General recused himself from overseeing anything related to the 2016 campaign, and his deputy who took over is alleged to have been involved in a conspiracy to oust the president. While Barr was adamant that Mueller's special counsel probe be unimpeded and his report fully published, he scared the anti-Trump forces in and out of government, when he said spying on opposing political campaigns is inappropriate. His public vow to examine whether the widespread spying operation against Trump and his affiliates was lawful and appropriate sent shockwaves through an organized anti-Trump political operation that had completely controlled the narrative until recently. President Trump has repeatedly said that the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election was a coup. According to the president and his supporters, individuals in the FBI formed the heart of a nefarious conspiracy to take him down, by engaging in rogue spying on his campaign. The president's spying complaint focuses on 2 investigative techniques: the contact undercover investigators made with the Trump campaign, and the use of electronic surveillance on certain Trump campaign officials. The Attorney General's response to Senator Hawley had the unique quality of being simultaneously true and misleading. They were both playing a linguistic sleight of hand. We've had only 45 presidents and 58 presidential elections in history. It should be no surprise, and should in fact be a relief, that federal investigators had never needed to use such techniques to investigate a presidential campaign. But make no mistake, in the broad context of high-profile public corruption investigations, the methods used against Mr. Trump's associates are by no means an anomaly. What is anomalous is the effort by some Republicans to undermine legitimate counterintelligence concerns. After Mr. Barr's testimony, Senator Hawley tweeted that the FBI spied on Donald Trump and launched multi-year investigations because unelected progressive elites in our government have nothing but contempt for Trump voters. The spying rhetoric casts a cloud of illegitimacy over the Russia probe and the FBI, and undermines the special counsel's findings. This is useful misdirection. Mr. Mueller's conclusion that the Trump campaign anticipated receiving derogatory documents and information from official Russian sources that could assist candidate Trump's electoral prospects challenges Mr. Barr's declaration that the evidence showed no collusion. In that light, it's not hard to see who's serving the truth, and who's serving the president.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.